just had an offer come in a minute ago that if we'd like to see something on shear scraping or scraping, I can get another demo up. Y'all want it?
Sure. Yeah.
Johnny Yu says,
Yes, please.
Let's go. This is going to be Matt Harber. He's volunteered to do that. Matt, speak and I can find you again.
I'm right here, Eddie.
Okay, now we got you. Now you're up, sir.
Okay. I'm going to show a little bit of difference between shear scraping and scraping and shearing. I'm going to use two tools. I'm going to use this big skew here and my deep fluted bowl gouge. The only reason I'm using the skew is to show the edge and how the flute edge works on the wood. All right, so let's cut to this one. This is a piece of bird's eye is draw some lines on it. All right. Now the reason I'm doing this is to show the direction the wood is moving in. Okay, so the wood is moving along these lines. Now, if I put the skew or the bottom edge of my scraper of my deep fluted bowl gouge on the tool on center, perpendicular, then that didn't draw real well. Then I'm hitting the direction the wood is moving is hitting these lines perpendicular at a 90-degree angle. As I rotate the edge of the tool up to a scraping position or steeper, that angle changes. And as I pass 45 degrees, I begin to get a shear. So if I'm going straight in and rolling it, then I'm scraping. If I use my deep fluted bowl gouge and do the same thing, straight in, I'm still scraping. If I'm now shear scraping here and I roll the tool this way, I begin to cut. So what does that look like? Okay. If I'm here and I'm coming across, I'm just scraping and I'm getting dust. Here, I'm getting dust, okay? As I roll the tool up, I begin to shear and I'm no longer getting dust. I'm getting real thin shavings like this. Now that angle will change. If I'm here in the middle or in the center, my angle needs to be here. If I'm here, then my angle needs to be here. So if I'm going from the center to the rim, I need to both roll, I need to drop my tool handle and roll my tool up like this as I come across. And that looks like this. And to shear, cut, all I need to do is roll the tool edge into the wood like that. And I get these sorts of shavings here. Okay? And that's the difference between shearing and scraping on the face. Any questions?
Why would you want to shear scrape?
There are times when shearing scraping makes more sense than shearing cutting. Okay, so let's say that I've got the surface edge where I want it. I don't want to change the actual contours, but I got a little bit of tear out. Okay, and maybe I'm using something stringy and I'm end grain. Okay, so let's say I'm using box elder, which is a common wood here in Michigan, and I'm turning on end grain. I've got a wide, narrow hollow form, and I'm turning on end grain across the top, and I've got the contour right where I want it. So I don't want to change the contour, but I want to clean up the tear out. That's when I would shear scrape. Does that make sense? I've hit it with sanding sealer. I've fixed the wood. I come across it with a shear scrape. I'm taking a very light layer of wood with the shear scrape, very light. So let's switch to this one here. So I'm cranked up, so I can come across and scrape it, and I'm not hardly taking any wood, but I'm getting a really clean cut. If I want to change the contour and you guys can see the kinds of shavings I'm getting with this, okay? As I, if I want to change the contour, I can take a deeper cut and switch and roll it. So let's say I want to put a little OG on the end here, then I can turn it up. I can scrape across here and then start to put my OG in and start cutting. And now I'm taking more wood.
By doing that, you have ultimate control of the tool because you're not guessing at it. You're riding that bevel to control.
Yep. And I'm still getting a really good shaving off of this, a really good sheared shaving off of it. But I'm switching from doing a shear scrape here to a cut here. And all I've done is I've rolled the tool a little bit like this, and I've continued to drop the handle as I get further and further out, because out here my angles are going to be different. Okay, here my angle here is a shear. Here it's like the angle is like this, because it requires a steeper angle because the wood is moving into the tool at a steeper angle. Does that make sense?
Does to me.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean that's like, you got everything nice and cut, you got everything shaped, but like you say, you're getting a tear out because the end grain is 180 degrees out. You got the end grain coming out on like a bowl or something like that, and no matter what you do, you just can't get rid of that tear out. That's when you need that shear scrape to get there and cut through the ends of those fibers. Sometimes I've even lubricated too with like alcohol or maybe sanding seal.
Yep.
Sometimes just that little extra might help. But no matter what, you try sanding it with sandpaper, it just doesn't go away. You just can't get rid of it. If you tried finishing it, it sucks it in like a bunch of straws, and it just shows right up. And that's where just that little bit sometimes.
Yep, and that's one of the reasons why I love the deep fluted bowl gouge with the shoulder grind like that, is because you really have a great amount of control. You can shift from one sort of cut to the other in a very gradual and ordered manner. You can control it. You can change the contours on the fly if you decide that you would like something a little better, a little deeper. There's a lot you can do with it if you just control the cut like that, and you're still, I practice this all the time. I'm always shearing, I'm always practicing my cuts because I want to get a good cut every time. It's easy. I'm getting old. I don't have the strength I used to have. If I let the tool do the work instead of trying to moose it, then I get it's a lot easier. I can do it longer. So
Hey, Matt.
That's the point you need. Let the tool do its job.
Matt,
Yep. Yes, sir.
I think we need to say something when you first started off for any new turners that we have on here tonight. The skew that the first tool he grabbed was called the skew. That skew right there takes the most respect. You have to respect that tool the most out of any tool in your arsenal. And what I just seen, Matt, show him you wouldn't want to take that tool and do what you tried to do with that bowl gouge because you'll be in trouble in a second. So the only thing he was doing was showing the angle of the cut at that point, not to use this thing and try to angle it like he did that bowl gouge.
Yeah, I wouldn't try to roll this tool, the skew into this tool, because the tool into the wood like this, because it would just tear the heck out of it.
Right.
Absolutely, and it probably hurt myself. So yeah,
So,
I mean, I have used it to shape a contour, but I'm using it as a scraper, as basically a square scraper in that respect. If I was to use it this
Correct.
way,
Funny,
But-
that looks just like what Cindy Droser calls a double-edged negative rake scraper. They look alike.
yeah, it's basically a negative rake scraper, and realistically, it's a skew. If I drop the hand a little bit, then I've got negative rake scraper angles on it, if you will. So I mean, if I need to shape a contour and it's not quite where I want it, then I might use the big skew. Let me see, where's my camera? Oh, there it is. Then I might use the big skew to shape it. I also have a square scraper that I'll use too, but that's rare. Usually I can get that with the deep fluted bowl gouge.
Great.
And that's usually my tool of choice.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate that. Appreciate the demo. Matt, I do know you crossed the line a little while ago and you said turn the scraper on an angle to get a smooth cut. I've been told for years you can't do that. Now that's the only way I use my scrapers tipped up. I don't like plowing. I'd rather do slicing. And
Right.
I didn't see Mark Slay in a bullpen tonight, but that's what he'll tell you. You can plow or you can slice. The little curly cues that he was taking off, that is slicing.